Hello, community. I hope that you've had a great week. Welcome to a special episode of the Rise to Her podcast, where I interview other entrepreneurs, creatives, and leaders. We talk about them rising into their highest self so that you can take their wisdom, take their experiences, see where there are stories, where there are insights for you, and then apply it, use it as inspiration, find other people that you connect with. It's really important to hear stories and to connect with like-minded folks that are on this path of creating and living within their soul purpose. We have a really awesome conversation for you today. I'm really excited. We just got done recording. We talk about things like consistency, living with ADHD, what happens when you wake up and recognize that you actually don't like what you're experiencing in the 3D. We talk about what happens when your life feels like it collapses and you recognize that you followed rules that don't ethically align with you anymore. Talk about energetics. We talk about physical action in the 3D, all the things you need to be inspired to create and to stay consistent in your own purpose, your own mission, and be in touch with the magic around you. We also get into using your spirit guides to help you and other magical support. So today we have Jennifer White on the podcast. She is a clarity and consistency coach, and she is the founder of Clearing for Launch Coaching. She lived years according to other people's expectations. And after the loss of her mother, it became a catalyst for rebuilding her life from the inside out. She overcame depression. She was navigating ADHD and really clarifying what it meant to be clear for her own purpose. Jennifer learned how to reconnect with her authentic voice and build a life that she truly loves. Today, Jennifer helps people break free from feeling stuck, discover what they truly want, and then take consistent action towards a life that feels like their own. If you are spiritual, you're going to love this podcast. If you're just dipping your toes into the realm of spirituality, but you so desperately just don't want to live so burnt out and stressed out, you are going to benefit from this conversation. All right. Welcome, Jennifer, to the podcast. Jennifer, good morning. Welcome to the Rise to Her podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to be here too. This is our second time chatting. And where are you calling in from in the country, in the world?
I am in Kansas City, Missouri.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I always like to give people like an energetic pinpoint to know where people are chatting from. And then we always like to open up our conversations with what is bringing you joy right now? Like what is lighting you up? What are you spending your time in?
I have some new directions that I'm going spiritually that have been really exciting. It's all to do with what's happening right now, energy-wise, and Barbault's basket and all the things. And it's been really exciting, but also, oh, great, one more thing. But I'm very excited. And it's been like, it's pulling people in toward me without any work. So that's been exciting too.
Beautiful. You said something that I'm not familiar with. Something's basket. What's that?
Barbault's basket. If anybody wants to look that up, it's Barbault. And he's an astrologer who, both a physicist, I think, and an astrologer, which is kind of cool. And he predicted, now I'm just learning this stuff. I am not an astrologer by any means. But my understanding is, in great big letters, that he was one of the ones that predicted the upset of 2020, of everything that, like, he didn't know what it was going to be, but he knew there was something big coming in 2020. But his real main focus was 2026 and this convergence of 4 planets, Jupiter, and anyway, there's 4 planets that are like our farthest planets. Pluto, I knew it was a P. I was getting Plato. I was like, that's not right. I told you I didn't know anything about this. But they're forming a basket. So Jupiter and Pluto, and then 2 other planets that supposedly are creating a like focus for positive energy to come into the solar system toward us. Change energy, like big change energy.
Yeah.
And last Wednesday was both the end of the top of the opening of Barbault's Basket. Barbault's Basket will be open for years. It's going to be there
Mhm.
for a while. But kind of the top of the energy ended last Wednesday. And we also had a full moon.
Yeah.
And so we did a gathering last Wednesday, just on the spur of the moment, of a group of women. Freaking amazing. It was so cool. So that group of women, that experience, that focus it brought me spiritually and in my business, that's what's bringing me joy right now. I'm so excited.
Oh, badass. Badass. And that's so fascinating how I hadn't heard of that. But, I do a lot of energy readings and I work with entrepreneurs like yourself to help you work with the energy rhythms, take action, be in tune with your own cycles. And one of the energies that we're working with this week is like this liminal space. We're recording this on August 7th. We have Lionsgate tomorrow. And this whole week has been like this liminal space of shifting, of changing. And next week is like, okay, you got to go full force. What do you want? This liminal space is highlighting all these uncomfortableness, frustrations. For me, it's been a lot about boundaries of like, oh, okay, this is where I really need to focus in, because next week when the energetics are really supportive of like speeding along your manifestations, well, it's going to help you manifest whatever you're calling in. But if you want it to be really what you want, you have to be so freaking clear about what it is instead of like settling back in uncertainty and just being like, oh, it would kind of be nice, right? And not being consistent with claiming what you want. Has that been something that you've noticed as well?
That's been what I've been told about the Barbault's Basket is, yeah, you have to be
Okay.
very clear with that energy that's coming towards you. What I've seen is that everybody is feeling this energy, whether they know it or not, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody's like, ah, I don't know why I can't sleep. I don't know why I can't seem to settle down. I feel like I'm floating. And my astrologer friends are like, oh yeah, that's Barbault's Basket. But Lionsgate, that sounds amazing. What is that?
Lionsgate. So also not an astrologer, but 88, right? And so it comes into the end, which represents the infinity sign. So this opening of possibility, it's this really powerful energetic portal that happens every year. I'm going to a mediumship circle tomorrow with a medium friend of mine, and then we're going to sit with cacao tomorrow night. And I'm just seeing it as this opportunity to really hone in on, if everything's possible, what do I want to make come into fruition? Right? Like this certainty. And I have to record another podcast right after this for next week's energy update, where it's really all, and I think this will probably come out a little bit later than next week's energy update, but all of this, like you said, the Barbault's Basket is like persistent. This is just a preparation of us going into the harvest season, working with the wheel of the year energy of like claim what you want instead of sitting back in that uncertainty, not being consistent because you're scared. Right. So when you look, if everything's possible, great, but that's going to scatter your energy, right? That's going to be like, okay, now how can I sit back and say, now what do I really want? And like, how can I approach that with clear freaking certainty? So that's what next week's energy is going to be about. And I'm going to dive in more on the podcast about that. But this week, we're still in this. It's funny you said liminal space, because the archetype that I pulled for this week was the Bardo. And so it was this space between life or death. It's a transitional space between endings and beginnings. And it feels very destabilizing. And this destabilization is like, okay, great. Now that's what's supposed to happen. And if you can settle into that, and for me, I've felt a lot of grief, even though I'm not even sure what the grief is about. It's like,
Yep.
ooh, I'm feeling a lot of grief. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling angsty, like I don't really know why I'm in a bad mood, but I am. And just paying attention, and instead of like giving it this like, oh, this is exactly what it is, I'm taking this time to reflect of like, okay, so above, so below, what is this reflecting to me? What can I do and work with and be with instead of just intellectualizing it? But there's a key point that I want to hone in there for our conversation today. And it's the idea of being consistent with what you're claiming and showing up for yourself. And so in this space of Barbault's Basket, Lionsgate, all the possibilities, what has been persistent for you that you are like, I'm showing up this way?
In the last 2 weeks, it's been claiming income. That's where I'm at right personally right now, is time to claim the clients that are out there looking for me, time to claim what I do well and consistently get that word out to people so they can find me and work with me. So that's been the most important part, like hitting me right between the eyes over and over and over, is the income has to match the goal, right? And the goals are now so far beyond income used to be the goal for me. No, income is now the means of getting to the goal.
Totally.
So that consistency is showing up to networking events, showing up to my own writing on the internet, my own doing podcast interviews, right? Doing the homework that I've been assigned by my podcast coaches, right? So, and then just continuing to say it out loud. I can help you. I can help you. I'm here. I'm here. I can help you. Yeah. We get so caught up in the idea that we're saying too much, that we are too much, that people are going to get tired of hearing it. But there's so much noise out there. And so in order to let people find us, we have to continue to say it over and over and over. And that's, again, that takes consistency.
It sure does. It sure does. And there's 2 points, as you said, that this like energetic piece that goes beyond the 3D, and then this very practical psychological piece. One, we know that folks have to hear things or see things at least 7 times before they're like, okay, yes, right? And then if there's like a higher buy-in point, whether that's going to be time, money, they're going to have to overcome this belief in it, then it's going to take even more time. So there's this, okay, I need to continue to be consistent instead of just like expecting, oh, it manifested out of thin air. And I think there's been a huge gap in the spiritual space. It's like, well, if you want it hard enough and you just visualize it, then it will appear. But while we are divine, we are also human, and therefore we have to show up in the 3D and stay consistent. So that's one piece that I would love to know, like how your approaches differ to other people's when it comes to consistency. But then the other part is the energetic consistency. That doesn't mean just thinking about it. It doesn't mean just like, oh, this is what I want. I'm just going to continue to hold that close. You said something really interesting. Like, I can say, hey, I can help you. And when we amplify with our voice, when we like activate that throat chakra, we are then amplifying the energy. We are claiming it because we are putting it out. And we are also telling our guides, outside forces, great, because we have free will. And so many folks that are coming to me, they're running these businesses. They have these really clear ideas. And they're like, okay, I want to feel more supported. I'm like, have you asked for help from your guides? Have you put it out in words? Have you really claimed it for yourself? Because if not, there's an energetic gap that is not being put behind it that could really help. So that was a long spiel. But how do you relate to that?
Okay, so let's start with the energetic gap. So that is where I call myself a clarity coach and a consistency coach. The consistency coach part is new because I started to see that my clients were getting clear, but then they have so many years behind them of being told they're not consistent, of being told that they're doing consistency wrong, that then once they're clear, they're still sometimes stuck because they don't know how to stay at it. Because if they don't see, most of my clients are ADHD, if they don't see immediate results, it's not working. Or I did it wrong. Most of the time for my people, if they don't see immediate results, they blame themselves. It's not working. I don't deserve this. I'm not worth this. So that first piece is, first of all, getting clear on what you want. You can't move forward to something that you haven't described and know. And as women especially, but people in general, we are raised in this culture, especially, I think in all cultures to a point, but in this culture especially, we are raised to not be clear about what we want. Because if we are clear about what we want, we're not going to buy what they're selling us. And that messes up the whole process, right? So people come to me after decades of giving away their clarity to other people and letting those people say, oh, this is what you want. Oh, this is what you should do. So that's the first step toward consistency, is actually working toward what you want. And that can take a long time just in itself to get clear on what you really want, to get over the training, not to speak out loud, not to use the words I want. Again, especially as women, we are trained not to speak our wants out loud, not to say I want, just that phrase at all. So I have seen people just go when they try to say I want. So step one, get clear on what you want. And that comes from speaking it out and speaking it to another human most of the time. Then once that clarity is there, now you have to go out and test it, not in a way as in, I'm going to test it and see if this is really real, but what gets me closer to that clarity? What gets me closer to that thing I really want? And you take a step. Did that get me closer? Yes. Okay, I'm going to take another step as much like that one as I can. Okay, did that get me closer? Okay, I'm going to take another step. Sometimes we take 4 or 5 steps and we go, oh, wait, that didn't quite get what I wanted. We step back. Okay, what steps should I take now? And it takes us a slightly different direction. But those steps are hard to take by ourselves. And that the first step might be going and talking to a business coach about how to write a business plan, right? And that's really uncomfortable for a lot of people because putting it on paper makes it real. And now I might lose it. Now somebody might shoot holes in it. For some of my clients, they've written that business plan, but they've just left it in a drawer. And so now the step is they know what the business looks like. Now they need to go out and get funding for that business. Now they need to go out and talk to people about that business and expose it to potential ridicule, expose it to potential, again, getting holes shot in that business idea, right? And so again, right there, people really need hand-holding in that phase of using their voice to say, this is what I do. This is the business I want to create. Hey, would you like to come on board with me? Very scary time. So it's really important to me that people have someone to hold their hand during that process. And again, the consistency might not be the same step every time. It's just continuing to take steps at that stage of the game.
That's good. That's good. I'm going to repeat that back to you. It's not doing the same step every time. It's just continuing to take steps in the game. Yes, guys, hear that. Let that alchemize. The consistency is showing up and it will look different every day. I've had my own business for 6 years. It looks very different every day, but it is continuing to show up and put the energetic consistency behind it. You said something interesting that I want to jump back to, and it was, you talk about that a lot of your clients are ADHD, and I find that to also be the case in my world as well. But there's another group where, people like Gen Z, Alpha, where they have been societally conditioned to consistently receive a dopamine hit. And it is like this immediate gratification. And if we can understand that as a human conditioning, that means we can then work it back and sort of like, oh, this is just who I am. This is how I am. Well, as soon as you say that, you've limited yourself into that story. And instead saying, okay, this is how I have been operating. And maybe this is the path that my brain automatically takes. Now, how can I work with that? How would you work with someone that is just like saying, well, this is just how I am. And if it doesn't work immediately, then I just quit.
I bring them back to the original vision.
Yeah.
So when someone sits down and says, I'm tired of my job, I want to go out and I want to help people in this particular way, this is what's calling me. Sometimes we do get away from that vision as we're writing out the first baby steps of that business plan, as they're going out and doing those first tentative networking events or those first tentative conversations with other business people, whatever that looks like. They can sometimes get away from, this is why I'm doing this. This is the heart calling that is working on me. And so when somebody comes back to me and says, oh, this doesn't work for me, I can't do networking, this doesn't work for me, or I tried to do Facebook Lives and I did 3 and then I realized they're just gross, I don't like it, I don't want to do that. Okay, sometimes that is true. You don't like doing Facebook Lives, let's find an alternative. But the majority of time, it's that they've lost touch with why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I can bring them back to that vision, you chose Facebook Lives as your means of getting the word out because your people tend to be on Facebook. Your people tend to watch Facebook. You yourself watch a lot of Facebook Lives, which means that's your ideal client because your ideal client tends to be you, right? So get your vision back. Let's come back to the original vision. These are the people you want to help. These are the places they hang out. These are the habits they already have. Let's remember that's why we're doing this. And by the way, are the Facebook Lives getting boring? Is that why we're not wanting to do that? What can we do to shake that up? What can we do to make Facebook Lives more interesting for you as well as for your clients, potential customers? Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it absolutely did. It absolutely did. If you've been listening to this podcast and thinking, this is exactly how I want to run my business, that is your sign to go deeper. Rooted is my monthly membership for entrepreneurs and leaders who are done running their business and their career on empty. Inside, we work with energetic patterns of each season, pull the archetypes, read what's moving, and use all of it to make clearer decisions, reduce the stress that's been quietly draining you, and build towards your vision in a way that actually feels like you and feels deeply connected to source and spirit. Most of us have spent years mastering the strategy and performing really high. The plans, the goals, the hustle. Rooted is the other half. It is the part that makes the strategy work without costing you everything. It's $27 a month and you can try it free for 7 days. Go to risetoher.com/rooted or click the link in the show notes. Come get rooted with us. I'll see you inside. And I have noticed with my own clients too, even with myself, where it's like, well, it just doesn't feel aligned. It's like, no, it just doesn't feel comfortable. Alignment oftentimes feels very uncomfortable. We've just been taught to think, we've been conditioned by the social media revolution that like alignment equals easy. Alignment means it feels good. Well, you can't tell me that it's not an alignment for you to move your body and take care of yourself. A lot of times that requires you to go outside of the story, the construct that you've created. Now, there are going to be things that are not resonant for you, like, oh, that's just really not resonant for me, but that feels very different. And that takes a level of energetic skill to being uncomfortable. Like it says, oh, I have put myself in enough comfortable conversations, enough uncomfortable scenarios to where I can hold my boundary and I can recognize how my energetic field says yes or no to those things. But that takes doing the consistent work to understand what that feels like. That's why it's so like my soapbox is always the energetic consistency and energetic mastery, because we get so in our head, we try to put these human constructs on things that go beyond the 3D.
Exactly. And that's where you asked in your question before, how do you fill that gap between what you want physically on this world and what your guides can help you with?
Yeah.
And it all comes to energy, right? Like I can get clear all day, but if I don't take action, the universe has nothing to work with because there's no energy to move.
Yes.
And so I would rather see a client take kind of bad action than no action at all, because universe can't work with no action at all. Universe can guide you. I talk about it like a train sitting in the station. Those train engines, especially if you think about the old steam engines, right? Those were like all iron. There was no amount of humans that could move that train if it didn't want to go, if it wasn't under its own steam, right? But we as people kind of feel like we're that train. I'm facing the wrong direction. I don't know where I should be going instead, so I'm just not going to move. Well, that leaves you stuck in the station. But if you can move, even if you're going, completely the wrong direction, move. Yes. And now get out on the track where the people back at the engineering area can flip switches and start turning you toward what you're supposed to be doing. And yeah, it's sometimes a long process, but you can't move that train without energy. And sometimes the train has to make its own energy, which is go out and talk to people. In my case, for most of my clients, go out and talk to people. Go try that thing you've been wondering about. Go try that class that would teach you how to do the thing. Just create some energy so that universe has momentum to work with.
Yes, 1,000%. And I want to scream that from the rooftops. I prescribe to the thought process of the Vedic philosophies that, nature, we are only in creation, maintenance, or destruction. And therefore, their things are going to either get built down, they're getting broke down, or they're just maintaining. And to increase energy, right, you're going to go one or the other ways. But destruction in itself, just like you said, if we're going the wrong way, that doesn't inherently mean you're doing something wrong or bad. Like, if I could just say, I say this almost every day, quit putting morality on your decisions when you are truly just trying to take a step. Taking a step is not right or wrong. It just is. And that gets so into business owners' heads, entrepreneurs, creatives, leaders of like, oh, is this the right thing? And it's like, follow it. Follow the signs, the synchronicities. And because what you're doing is getting so caught up in like, oh, I don't want to fuck it up, that you're just halting the energy and you're leaking. You have an energetic leak that is then leaking out so fast that any ounce of like, oh, creative, yes, or signs and synchronicities, you're missing it. So just take the step forward. Do it messy. Like, that's going to be the prescription. It doesn't matter if you're talking to a spiritual guide. It doesn't matter if you're talking to just like a 3D business coach or a leadership coach. They're just going to say, you just need to do it messy first.
Exactly. And messy consistency leads to less messy consistency, which then leads to more honed language. It leads to more honed steps. It leads to quicker recognition of what works and what's aligned and what would be beneficial. But until you take those first messy, ugly, this feels really gross steps, you can't get to that refined area. I was writing copy a couple of days ago, and actually it was on the application to be on this podcast. And one of the little areas only allowed so many characters. And so I couldn't just blah, blah, blah. I had to like cut that down and cut that down and cut that down to get the idea I wanted to convey to you. And old me would have just been in a puddle. Like 5 or 6 years ago, me would have just been in a puddle. Like, I can't say it in only 50 characters or whatever it was. It wasn't that small. But new me was like, oh, I can do this. I just have to, okay, how would I combine that? And I just kept typing it. And it literally took like maybe 3 minutes to trim it down to say exactly the same thing, but better in fewer words, because I've been doing this since 2017, right? But my copy in 2017, I don't think you wouldn't even call it copy. It was blather. It was me just blabbing on.
Your perspective on that, I think there's so many golden nuggets in this, but that perspective, I want to take a minute to sit with, because you said 6 years ago, if I would have given you this prompt and said, I need you to tell me this in X number of characters, and you were like, I can't do it. Energetically, when I'm tapping into that, and I feel it very viscerally just by you explaining that to me, it feels like a constriction of like, you're taking control away from me. Why are you doing this to me? It is this point of like, almost feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is just what's coming through, almost this feeling of like, you don't understand me, so therefore, I can't do this. Versus how you described it now, oh, this was an opportunity to refine, right? One perspective was like an attack on who I am as a character, as a human being, who my morality. The other one was like, oh, this is an opportunity. Wow.
Thank you for saying that. That wasn't my thought at the time. I was like, why is this one? Why only this one? But yeah, by the time I was done, it was really lovely to have that revelation of, oh, you thought you needed an entire paragraph and you just did that in 2 sentences.
Yeah.
Well done. Look at you.
Yeah, you did that in 2 sentences. You made it work with the parameters you were given instead of taking it as like oh, I can't do this. This is pissing me off. I'm just going to quit. Right. And it's interesting because we sometimes, especially as spiritual folks, make things a lot deeper than they are. And I had something on my desk at one point, and it was kind of mean, but it was like, don't contribute to malice what is incompetence or just like a miss, like it just was. And it was like, maybe the opportunity was just to see your own capabilities. Like it had nothing to do with anything else, because likely what I'm thinking, like even when I'm like, oh, why was that text box a lot shorter than the others? And I can tell you it's probably because I did simple text versus long text. I just clicked a different button. Right. And it's like, but we're like spinning out over this. And so it's just so funny that it's like, oh, okay. And it's like, oh, I could go fix that. Cool. Thank you. Right. Instead of like, oh no, I can't do this. Like I have to quit. And that could really like, I'm sure for a lot of people, and like you said 6 years ago, that would have just spiraled you. Imagine if you continue to not build what your soul contract came here for because someone clicked simple text versus long text. Truly, because that's what we're doing. That's what I'm seeing. People are like, why didn't you click the long text? Now I can't do what I need to do.
And now I got to quit.
Yeah.
Now I got to quit. It's so funny you say that, because not a couple weeks ago now, it's a month, right after I had made the decision to, interestingly enough, what you just said, I started a challenge to myself for the next year of following what calls me. So that was really cool that you said that, when you follow what calls you.
Yeah.
That is my challenge to myself for the next year. And I started that on July 1st, announced it to the world, which I always do. And then I think 5 days later, we got a letter in the mail that our garage door fell off the tracks and needs to be painted. It's in really bad shape. And then our backyard is full of honeysuckle, and we had left it last summer thinking we were going to spray it because it's invasive and it's not US native. We were just going to spray it all down, and that never got done. I don't know if you know that running a business means lots of things don't happen in your house and in your yard, but we got that letter. And again, previous me would have been like, see, the universe doesn't want me to do this. The universe doesn't want me to follow what calls me. It wants me to just go work in my yard. It's a sign. Actually, I wasn't terribly much a sign person, but I did get really resentful about that kind of stuff, right? Like, I will say this. I used to say, every time I make a decision, every time I think I'm on the right track, something gets in my way and I can't do it. This time, I went, wonder what's in this that I need to learn before I can keep going with following what calls me.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And can I provide what's coming through as you say that?
Yes, please.
What's coming through is you're being simply invited to create more systems and structures inside of your home life, inside of the things that have to get done. You're being invited to create more structure there so that you can be in tune with your intuition a bit more. So this was like, hey, I know you forgot about this, but I'm going to just bring some light to it, because there was like a gap of, oh, I know I needed to follow through there. And there was like tiny leaks of energy going there. And so it was like, okay, as soon as that was highlighted, great, I can patch that up. The structure's there. Now I can flow more this way. And if you're not watching on YouTube, I'm like going the opposite way with my hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I got a letter 6 weeks ago so that I could have this conversation with you today. Because that sounds like exactly what it is. Because since that happened, not only have I spent a couple hours in my yard every day, being outside in nature, on the ground, getting grounded, but I have been like, it's like that has put my energy in the house differently too. It's like, well, yes. The yard's cleaned up. Let's get this done. My office has been an absolute mess. I won't even know how long time.
And it's like one of those things, once it takes over, you're like, oh God.
Yeah. And so That was my birthday present yesterday. One of my sons came in and helped me just put things in boxes. And I am the mom.
Yeah.
So, and my office is my space. And so when people come over, the boxes come in my room. When things have to happen and things have to be dealt with, those boxes come in my room. That paperwork comes in my office, right? Which that changes, right? Like after this all gets done. But yeah, what you just said is exactly what's been happening. That's so cool. Yeah.
Oh, magic. That's magic.
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
magic
it
because
is.
you're willing to be consistent and go out there and put yourself out there. Be willing to face rejection. Be willing to claim what you want. I love that. Hold on. When was your birthday?
Yesterday, August 6th.
Happy birth.
Thank you.
So exciting. Okay, Leo?
Yes, very
Yeah,
much so.
you are meant to shine, baby. What's your rising sign?
I don't know any of that. My
No, huh?
astrology friends are always like, when are you going to sit down with me? And I don't know any of that.
No,
So
that's totally fair. I just asked because I typically resonate with my rising more than my sun. So I would just maybe look it up. But with the Leo in your chart, and we're in Leo season and Aquarius vibes. So you're being very much like, hello, claim what I want, hold my boundaries, and say, this is mine, so that you can love everyone else.
thank you for that. That's
Of
awesome.
course.
Yes.
Of course.
Hold
So I
my
want to go
boundaries
back
so I can claim
to,
what I want and love on everyone else. That's beautiful, Emily.
yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, of course. Thanks for
Mm.
receiving. I think there's a lot of magic for all of us, especially women, in that because we have been so deeply conditioned again to restrict those desires, to mistake almost what we want because we're so used to like following the rules. And in the witch hunt manuals, it said a woman in tune with her senses is one with the devil. And so, yeah, there's these deep witch wounds of being in touch with our intuition and our desires and our claimingness. And so, by retouching that, by awakening that, we then awaken that witch wound. And so, of course, there's these times that we're scared to be consistent and claim what we want. But what you're doing with clients is like sitting there, being in community, right? For centuries, we've been in covens, we've been in circles, we have gathered together to hold each other's hands. And that has been often put on religious, like if you go into churches, maybe you're going to see that, but we know there comes a lot of pain and persecution and control in that. And we think, oh, we can only receive that community inside of like these dogmatic institutions. But the invitation here is like, oh, someone's offering to sit there to see me, to say, this is how I can work through it. Beautiful. Here's an exchange for me to do that. What an incredible opportunity that you pose for people. And especially with you being, later in life diagnosed with ADHD, you see things from another perspective.
Very much so. Very much so. And having gone through all of that, I was very evangelical as a young woman, tried to do all the things I was told, tried to follow the shoulds,
Yeah.
and ended up very miserable, very ill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
You're in good
when I woke
community.
up, yeah, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get to know you better, Emily.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
I feel like that in itself can be a whole other conversation. But like one of the things that I'm so passionate about, this recently became a download, is this opportunity to create this like hybrid group working with women entrepreneurs called Wake Up the Witch. And so it's just really like reconnecting to energetic mastery, your intuition, your psychic abilities to then enhance your business, create much faster, receive much faster, release the witch wound, release the mother, the father, the divine child wounds, and instead be in the magic of creation. And you radiate this magic. And I offered that because I'm curious, what did it take for you to go from the evangelical Christian? I grew up Southern Baptist, so I get it. The evangelical Christian to the person that's like claiming her power, charging her worth, saying, no, this is what I want, like, and then being consistent in that. What had to change?
First of all, thank you for
Yeah.
seeing that. Like, I started to get teary eyed when you said that. So thank you. So what had to change first was, unfortunately, my mother died in 2012. And I had already begun to step away a little bit from the church. I had certainly never been deep in the evangelical world because so many things conflicted with my beliefs about race and about women's sovereignty and that kind of thing. But as I pulled away more and more from Christianity in general, at one of the heights of that point, my mother passed. And she was the third leg of the stool that was my life. My mother, my husband, me.
Yeah.
And when she died, my whole life just tipped over because there was nothing left to hold it up, because that stool was a false front. It was me. When I got married, I thought I was getting married to create support for the life I wanted to build. And instead, I lost myself in the evangelical beliefs about marriage and who a woman should be. And I thought I could balance that, and I couldn't. And so I lived in should for 25 years. And so when my mother died and I no longer had that second person in my life trying to hold me in the should, I kind of came up and went, oh, this is not what I wanted. This is never what I wanted. This isn't where I thought I'd be at all. Which then already I'd lost my mom, and now I realized I've lost my life that I thought I was going to have, and I hit rock bottom. I wasn't suicidal, but I could see it from where I was.
Yeah.
So that was first work, was to just get myself out of the depression and no longer contemplating unaliving myself. But in the process of doing that work, I started meditation. My doctor said, you need to be on the pills, and we know which pills work for you because they worked for you 2 years ago. And I was like, those pills made me so sick, I almost ended up in the hospital. She was like, sorry, rather have you in the hospital than not alive at all. So you're on the pills. And I was so afraid of those pills that I was like, I will do whatever it takes. What do I need to do to get off these pills? She was like, well, you could meditate. And I was like, okay, let's go. What does that look like? Because I was ADHD. I'd never meditated in my life. I tried, never worked, walked away every time. This time I couldn't walk away because I didn't want to be on those pills for longer than 3 to 6 months. So there's one set, right? Life and death is a one way to get consistency.
For sure it is.
So she taught a class on meditation. I took it. I started meditating. The best I was doing most days was 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But she was like, that's success. Keep doing it. It's fine. You're fine. Just keep going. I could go deep into meditation because it saved my life. It changed my life, but more importantly, it saved my life.
Yeah.
But that, once I got up, and I felt like I was in a pit. I call it the pit. And once I got up to ground level and my eyes were here and I could see out of the pit, that was when I could see these piles around me of all the things I had accepted and just done because that was what the culture told me to do. So here I am, just finally level. I'm not great. I'm just ground level. And there are mountains of stuff around me that I have accepted in my life that I don't want anymore. And that was when I was like, I don't want one other person to ever end up here. Ever. And so I went deeper into meditation. I started looking for answers. I started reading self-help books. I had already been reading self-help books. I'd done that my whole life. But now I was very much more specific about, how do you know what you want? How did I end up here 25 years the wrong direction? And I'm not exaggerating. 25 years going the wrong direction from my dreams. How did I end up here? And that's when my life began. We were just talking about the momentum. I took steps. They weren't great steps. They were just steps. And when I took those steps to try to change my life so that I could prevent this from happening in other people's lives, that was when universe reached out and took my hand and said, okay, that's close, but not there, and bumped me a little. That switch of the right leg of the rails. Okay, yeah, you're headed to Tupelo. I really want you to go to Arkansas. So let's switch you here a little bit. And then in that process, I just kept getting more and more momentum. I found a group called the Good Life Project, went to their camp. It was summer camp for grownups,
Yeah.
and met all these people. But the main thing that came from that, I got affirmation that I was on the right track with meditation, found these people who are actually doing meditation. But what I kept hearing that 4 days was, well, my coach told me this and my coach told me that. And I was like, these people don't look like athletes. And by the end of the 4 days, I had figured out, oh, these are coaches that help them with their life. That's a thing? Luckily, my very last day at that camp, I was invited by a coach to come to her workshop. And I fell in love with her in that workshop. She became my coach, changed my life forever.
Beautiful.
And she was the first person who helped me see that consistency doesn't have to be just for me. It doesn't have to be my nose to the grindstone. It doesn't have to be me forcing or pushing or dragging myself through. Because she put me with another group of people in one of her masterminds. And it was so relieving to see other people struggling also.
Yeah.
And to see other people succeeding against the same things I was struggling with. And suddenly consistency became something to just keep at rather than to do and then fail and give up.
Yes. Yes. Something to keep at. I love that. What an inspiration. What a story of consistency, triumph, transformation, and bravery. Bravery to be willing to shine the light where there was a lot of shit piled up. Because there are many people that go their entire life and say, I would rather be miserable than face the wreckage. And you were brave enough to shine the light and do that. So I can only imagine what beautiful space that you hold for the people that you work with. And speaking of, I'm sure people will want to connect with you and find you. Where can they find you? Social media, your website, all the things.
The main way to get hold of me is clearingforlaunch.com. You can go to my website, clearingforlaunch.com, LAUNCH. There's yes, some people say clearing for lunch, and I'm sure that exists also, but that's not me. So go to my website, clearingforlaunch.com. There should be a button there to click on that will say, let's chat. I actually am getting ready to redo my website, so it may say something along the line of sign up for a free consult.
Yeah.
And that's actually the easiest way to get hold of me, is just set up a time for us to talk.
Beautiful. All right, cool. And we'll link that in the show notes. Is there anything else you would like to leave the listeners with?
The most important thing I would love everybody listening to know is that you're not lazy, you're not crazy, you're just not clear.
Yes.
And if you are ready to make that change, let's go.
Yeah, I love that. You're not lazy, you're not crazy. You just haven't been clear. And that clarity is available. You just have to be willing to shine the light.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being here, for connecting with us. It was a beautiful pleasure.
Thank you too, Emily. This was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here, for listening, reflecting, and rising into more of who you really are. If this episode sparked something inside of you or reminded you you're not alone, then you're exactly where you're meant to be. To keep the conversation going, come hang out with me on Instagram @rise2her. I always love hearing what's resonating for you. And if you're craving a space to explore intuitive, soul-led living with others who get it, our community is growing and you're always welcome. Until next time, trust yourself, honor your rhythm, and keep rising.